Hello, everyone. My name is Hayden Tsutsui, and I'm one of the contributors at the Jito Foundation. And welcome to another episode of the Midcurve Podcast. This is a Jito Network podcast sponsored by the Jito Network. That's right, we are not sponsored by anyone unless you count our investors. But no, this show is meant to discuss all the things we're building on Jito Network, as well as the cool infrastructure and products we're building with other builders and partners that we believe will make Solana win. And today our guest is David Rhodus. What's up, David?
Hey, great to be here. I'm David. Just new to the Solana ecosystem, building a pipe network, a content delivery network, and excited to collaborate with everyone.
Nice. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know David, David has years of experience in the video streaming industry. He engineered a video streaming platform that I believe was acquired by Amazon. And there, the platform processed all sorts of live video streams, including live sporting events. And while at Amazon, he worked on AWS and built the streaming architecture for the Amazon Prime video service. And now he's building his another startup, and it's on Solana. And like he said, it's a decentralized CDN. And there are other components of the stack, I think, like storage and routing, which we'll get into later. But I think today, or I don't think, today it's October 10th. And at the time of this recording, but once this episode is live, a liquid staked pipe token will have been launched called LovePIPE, which I'm really excited about. I think we're both very excited about it, and I'm sure we'll get into more of the details later on in this pod. But before we get into all that stuff, David, why don't you start off by giving the audience a little bit more about your background in the traditional CDN space?
Yeah, totally. So I've been entrepreneur, engineer for 25 years. Long time on the internet. Started my career off like migrating insurance systems off of mainframes, and that was super boring. And I thought online video was very cool a long time ago, and just kind of jumped into that. Did a lot of innovation through the years.
What does sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what does the insurance have to do with video?
It was just it's probably where I did most of my initial like C++ programming, and got super bored. It was like we got to find something else to do in your life, and spent the next like 15 years, focused on streaming video. This is a good five years of curiosity in health insurance, writing weird health insurance software.
What was like, so you mentioned it was partly, or maybe it was all due to this, but you were sitting there, you had this job, it was, it was not motivating, you weren't inspired, and you kind of started to become interested in video streaming. Was there like a conference you went to? Was it, a video stream that you saw and you were like, okay, I'm going to hack this and figure out how to make this better? Like, what was the sort of like inspiration that got you into that direction? Because, you're an engineer, you can build whatever you want, but why video streaming?
I think the pivotal thing was like this term was starting to be coined at the time. It was called like big data. And I'm looking and reading these like tech journals, and they're talking about these data sets. And I'm like, that's what I deal with every day. Like, I've been dealing with this for 5 years. So I felt like I was like behind the curve in innovation, if that's where things were. And, at that point, there was like real media player and just very few things online. Apple hadn't released the HLS streaming standard yet. So online video was just ripe for innovation. So I jumped in. I thought, wow, this works, but barely at this point. And it's been a great journey, like getting, we're using video technology today over the internet. It works great.
Yeah, and I feel like you legitimately had a role in that. I really do. So what did you start off doing?
Yeah, so I was looking to kind of jump in and, run a startup. So my first like video startup, we just focused on streaming like high school sports, things like that. We signed up like 10,000 high schools and put ads in the videos, split the revenue with the school. So the schools were super excited, like especially bigger ones like in Texas and Alabama. They were pulling in, 50 grand a month or something from the ads.
Wow, we gotta bring that back.
Yeah, so it was super fun. So Friday Night Lights, love that. Um, did a bunch of innovation, like people probably hate this, but like created a way to insert advertising into live streaming. So uh,
No, no, I'm kidding.
yeah, so patented that and stuff a long time ago. And it's like a good startup. Someone wanted like the portfolio of media we had so that they could acquire it, put it on cable at the time, cable boxes. So we sold that off, and then I was looking for like the next super challenge, and I joined these guys. They're building like literally like server appliances. They're shipping with like this video encoder on it, and
Hmm.
I'm like, let's get this into the cloud, and they're like, you're nuts, but you can try it. And it took about 6 months to rewrite their software and put this inside of AWS. And 2 or 3 months later, like we had most major broadcasters from like BBC to ABC Fox, even Amazon Video itself. And probably about 8 months in, Amazon's bill was like enormous. It was like I think like 60,000 a day or something. And basically, they just called and said, "We're not going to pay the bill, um, but we want to acquire your company." So that was shocking and exciting.
That's pretty badass.
Yeah,
That's pretty badass. So I'm gonna rewind you. I don't know, maybe like 55 words, 100 words. I don't know.
yeah,
You said that these guys were building. Oh, I dropped it. You said these guys were building quote unquote server appliances with video encoding on
yeah.
it. Just what is that?
So these guys, they were like super geniuses, right? They figured out how to leverage like GPUs for video encoding before NVIDIA even knew it could do that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
What time? Around what time is that?
So that was about 2007, about a year before Bitcoin or so came out.
So is one of the guys that you're working with, was his name Jensen Huang?
No, but we all joked this one guy, Brian, he might have been Satoshi because like he basically figured out how to do, integer multiplication on these GPUs, which is what Bitcoin and Ethereum do. So,
That's crazy. So you have some lore. You clearly have some lore in the engineering industry, in the engineering world. Did you live in SF?
uh, so SF, and then this guy lived in like the middle of Oregon, like super remote. Genius, had to get away from everyone. Yeah.
He's in Oregon. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So you've clearly been in the video streaming industry for a really long time, and we've already kind of gotten a history lesson to an extent. But could you kind of zoom out a little bit, more broadly speaking, give us a brief history of the content delivery industry or the video streaming industry? Like, where do we start? Where are we now?
Yeah, content delivery is pretty fascinating. So it's been around for about 25 years. The largest and probably still the best company is Akamai today. Bunch of super nerds, spun out of MIT, trying to make the internet faster. Um, and it's basically like if you're streaming a super expensive event like a NFL Super Bowl or something, it's very common wording like, no one ever got fired for hiring Akamai or paying Akamai. So it just works. It works great. Um, I've been on super large deployments from like Disney to Hulu to Amazon Video. And what's fascinating is you look at these mega video infrastructures, they all end up actually utilizing multiple CDNs. So what Akamai works great, there's still a lot of pockets, in the US and around the globe that one CDN company could not fulfill. Um, when I was at Amazon, we were working on deploying live streaming into their like Amazon video stack. We used, I think, 6 different CDNs at the time, which is
Mm,
crazy because they run like a multi-billion-dollar CDN themselves. And
interesting.
um,
What's the edge? Like, what's the like? Why is there such a diverse set of market participants? Like, what are the advantages and inefficiencies, or what are the advantages that some of them take, that some of them benefit from, and what are the inefficiencies?
yeah, like there's been a lot of innovation and the server, the programs to get the data faster to the users.
Hmm.
Probably the biggest fundamental thing is like all of the CDNs today still live in data centers. So they're on average about 150 miles away from the end user. Uh, so
Hmm.
that creates a lot of latency. The speed of light, something you cannot accelerate, unfortunately. So it was fascinating thinking about this problem and um, trying to coordinate a lot of like hyper local cache nodes, like down to a neighborhood level. And that's where we kind of stumbled into thinking about blockchain. Like
Hmm.
before, we were like generally kind of negative about blockchain. It's like, I don't know, too volatile, I think, for most of us and things. Um, but the technology seemed to like really align with like being able to coordinate like hundreds of thousands of nodes around this world to cache data down in the neighborhood level. And, a lot of the math has been on our side. We really lean into like this one particular equation called bandwidth delay product, BPD. And basically, as the distance between the data and the user, gets shorter, the latency, like today we see 10 milliseconds kind of on average in our network. So that opens up so much more bandwidth throughput. And if we look at like a competitor like Cloudflare, Akamai, you're going to see 50 to 80 milliseconds of latency. Um, Not that those products don't work; they work great today, but they definitely have limits. Like you'll see, like if you try to stream like 4K movie continuously, it almost always gets like downsampled into like 1080p or below. So there's a lot of like issues with CDNs being so far away from the user.
Okay, I see. So there's this advantage that you guys are able to capture because instead of having your CDNs sort of located in where all the other CDNs are located,
Mhm.
you can distribute the CDNs, or these nodes that are participating in the CNN, and these nodes are sitting closer to the end user,
Mhm.
and so because of that, they get served the content much faster. And this second thing, which is also interesting, it seems like the data doesn't degrade as much. Like you have higher quality data. Um, that's a really interesting thing because when you were talking, I was thinking, I don't know if I care about seeing the walk-off home run 50 milliseconds before everyone else. But I do care about the quality of that experience.
Mhm.
Um, what are some use cases where the speed and the latency really matter to the end user?
So today, and this is rapidly changing with machine learning and things like that, but um, the CDN industry revenue wise is about 80% still driven by video streaming. So um, being an old like business guy, you're like, okay, I'm going to optimize for where the revenue is. But there's a lot of like use cases like gaming, for example, that uses CDNs. You're playing like a shooting game, things like that. Um, that speeds those up greatly. Also, a lot of like a lot of sports is fascinating because it has to be like time locked. So across all these live streams, that way, for example, you don't see something 1 second before I do, so you could go and like change your bet, in Vegas.
I was gonna say actually, I was gonna say that's the when you were talking, I was thinking, well, okay, never mind. I actually do care about seeing the walk-off home run before everyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be a way where one of these prediction markets, like traders that are trading in these prediction markets, could leverage, you know, this type of latency, this type of product, so that they can, update the prediction market price as fast as possible. That's like a super fascinating concept.
Yeah, I've never been like a big trader or anything. I buy a stock and hold it for 10 or 20 years. But I definitely think like all these trading markets on the blockchain are fascinating, and um, the size of the content delivery network we have today definitely can help speed those like components up. Whether it's like the trades herself or just the information that they're trading on, like it's all data at the end of the day.
Interesting. Okay, so I think I'll take another step back here. We've already kind of dig into the details, but let's take a step back here for for people in the audience that aren't familiar with Pipe Network. Um, what is Pipe Network? Like, describe the architecture.
And so Pipe Network's a content delivery network that will power essentially any website or video streaming app out there today. And essentially, it's roughly 10x faster than any existing competitor today. And it's a huge space, growing like 25% year over year. You can look at one of our competitors, Cloudflare. I think last time I checked, their market cap was like 70 billion or something. So that's just one of
It's 74.5 billion.
that's just one of
So it
many
looks like they went up.
players. Yeah, it's crazy. So no one knows they use a CDN today. Like if you open up, you know, HBO at home and you start to stream, HBO goes and contracts with these CDNs to make their content get to you faster. Like if you go to Solana's website, right, it's actually running on Cloudflare today. So no one really knows unless you're a developer or a business that there's a CDN there. Uh,
Hmm.
but it's a massive part of the internet infrastructure that, you know, makes it usable. If not, like websites would take forever to load.
Hmm. They still do.
They still do. Yeah, that's why we're building this. Like,
Are there any? Hmm. I guess I'm trying to unpack a little bit about how you have so much experience in the traditional CDN world. I think from my perspective, it's like, oh, it's so easy. You could just bring that to the Web3 world and, it's going to work out. We're all going to win. But obviously, that's not the case. Like, obviously, there's a lot of pain and hard work to be done. So, what about the crypto world do you think presents the biggest challenge as build out this decentralized CDN?
I think it's any distributed systems extremely difficult to build and especially manage. Um, in crypto, in particular, where it's permissionless, so anyone can just download the software and put it on your Mac, put it on your Windows computer, right, and participate in the network. So you get a lot of different computers, different people turning them on and off. Just sometimes you get very rogue actors coming in too to
Hmm.
try to hack these networks. So there's a lot of like security issues. I think blockchain has like kind of a carrot and a stick for that. Like, you can pay these nodes for participating and acting really good. And then there's a lot of really cool things you can do if the the node starts misbehaving and harming the customers, like slashing them and kind of taking their collateral back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the. So this is the. Now we're kind of getting into the area where we are working together. Um, do you have like so? How does that work? Like, what are some of the incentives that you can use to make sure that node operators are following the desired protocol?
Yeah, so we have a lot of incentives put in as far as like monitoring the nodes. We do some zero knowledge proofs for the data they're egressing to verify that they actually sent the data that was requested. Um, there's still a lot of risk that people come in and try to exploit the system. Like, if there's money on the ground, people are going to take it. So, um, hardening the system more with like uh, stake, so that like you've got super high value nodes. I think Solana probably operates like this as well. Like, people look at the performance of the nodes and they want to stake there. Uh,
Mm,
in our scenario, like customers can pay more for bandwidth, like in a priority bandwidth component, and they get higher quality nodes. And it's very similar signaling, I think, of how Solana staking works today.
mm-hmm. Interesting. So does that mean there's like some kind of leader schedule?
I wouldn't say there's a leader schedule because there's too many users, too much data being transferred at once. But there's definitely like a ranking category of like, we're pretty uncreative, so we just called it like gold, silver, bronze. Like, and if you got like a gold node, like you've got incredibly low latency and super high throughput. Um, so we've measured that, by you operating for about a week or so. And at that point, it makes sense to start to like apply more stake, route that priority bandwidth through there. Um, if you're a company like Amazon or Warner Brothers, with HBO, um, their brand is like the biggest risk. So they're actually willing to pay whatever if it can deliver video faster or data faster. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so we're super excited to come and like compete in like a metrics based kind of marketplace.
Mm-hmm. So is there on Solana the stake is the amount of stake you have is has a relation with the amount of revenue you're able to generate from execution fees.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you accelerate that and the network is just continues the way it is today, which isn't perfect, you end up in a situation where a few nodes have all the stake. Um, is that like a same? Is that a so obviously between now and then, there's going to be all these different developments um, that prevent that future. But is there a similar problem in Pipe Network?
There, I mean, there could be if you're like a super sophisticated operator with a lot of capital, um, but also it's different because like Solana is this like execution engine. It's just trying to execute the data and change state, where Pipe Network is trying to deliver the data to the end users. So um, Pipe Network needs like many multiple times more nodes than Solana. So like uh, we estimate we probably need somewhere between like 2 to 5 million nodes to cover most of the planet, like in a 10 millisecond kind of latency.
Hmm.
Today, we can get to most people within like the same performance as Akamai, but we want to be like in your house, basically, or in your neighbor's
Yeah.
house.
So what's the strategy there? Like, how are you going to distribute to everyone's house?
So, essentially just using the blockchain to coordinate and pay out these nodes. The customers are extremely sophisticated. So they provide us a lot of feedback of like, hey, you've got poor performance here in like Kansas City or different areas. You need to deploy more nodes there, or the performance is okay, but we need more bandwidth. So deploy more nodes. So in those scenarios, like we can put out geographic bounties and ask people to spin up more pop nodes in those locations. Um, and then it's like the stake happens. Someone comes in with like a low performance computer. Uh, Maybe it's serving like one or two users, but it's probably not going to be able to power like crazy 4K video. So the system's just naturally going to shift the stake away from it. And I think that's probably how Solana works in a lot of ways. Is you run a validator on like an old potato computer, you're probably not going to get that much stake.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Who are the customers? Is that something that you can share? Like, what you say they're very sophisticated. Now I'm wondering, like, who are they?
Just traditional like media companies that we've worked with for a decade or so. Um, we're also working quite a bit with Solana as well. Um, we basically building this for the video industry, and then it found out that like there was a little bit of Web3 business here, so we jumped right into that. So um, we host all the Solana entire history on the CDN today. So it's like almost 400 million files, 400 million blocks, and like a petabyte and a half of data. We also host these things you probably know a lot better than I, validator snapshots. And
Mm.
this helps like a new validator hydrate the accounts and ledger stuff really quickly. And it's very like, I'd say we get like 200 or 300 terabytes of download a day just of that data. Uh,
Mm.
so the Solana ecosystem has been like really fun. I think if I was to frame it, Solana, like the snapshots and stuff, have been like our meme coin test, like our load test on the network, and uh,
Mm-hmm.
it helped us find a lot of hotspots and fix things. So feel very blessed to like work with these folks.
Interesting. So what are the validators, like who is the end consumer for um, both the content and also the snapshots?
Yeah, so I don't know who the heck reads the um, block history, but we see like 6 to 8 gigabits per second just continuously people reading that. So that's pretty cool because it's like we've got the whole history. It's free. It's permissionless. You just hit an API. Um,
Why'd you make it free?
uh,
'Cause that's really nice of you.
it just we wanted that load test, right?
Mm.
Yeah, and I don't know. I read a lot of like people on Twitter complain about the cost of accessing Solana data, and I thought if we've got the whole thing that's like very unique, let's make it free.
So the read layer on Solana is something that has been, you could say, fudded, or it's something that hasn't received a lot of love. Are you saying that this content delivery, this like history,
Mm-hmm.
like you can serve the history, like you can kind of like be that read layer for people that want to do various things on chain?
Yeah, we haven't like crazy optimized it. So we are typically 2 or 3 seconds behind the chain. So like
Hmm.
we sync pretty aggressively, but um, we haven't really dug into like making sure that we could like serve it within like 400 milliseconds or very close to the block production time. Uh,
Hmm.
but in general, yeah, like I think we also read people are like, oh, I can't go look up historical DeFi swaps, and it's like a lot of issues just because of the amount of data the Solana blockchain is, because it's like it's a massive engine, producing data.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's it's fully available for free. Anyone can read it now, um, study it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really cool. So if you're in the audience and you want to consume read Solana data, check out the product that David has. What's it called? It's called Solana AI Wave or Solana Wave.ai.
Yeah, Solana Wave to AI, and you can just go to Pipe Network too. We've got an ecosystem tab on the page of all kinds of random projects in Solana and Pipe Network.
Yeah, go check it out because I want to see like check it out. I want to see like why you're going to use it. I want to see like what people think. I think it's really cool. I feel like it's not something that has gotten a lot of attention. But if you can read data from Solana, I feel like that's really cool.
It was kind of cool to like look at block zero and block 400 million and just see all the data. It's fascinating.
Man. And then there's the storage side. We talked about the CDN in pretty great detail. And you guys have also somehow hacked this Firestarter storage product. What is that?
Yeah, so originally we actually built a storage system about a year ago. That was like our original drive in the engineering team was like we saw a bunch of like really cool trailblazers in crypto of like decentralized storage, but unfortunately the read availability was very lacking for them. So I could upload a file to some of these systems and it might take 5 minutes before I can get the first byte back. And that's cool, that it works, but um, I don't think there was any business that would use that. And I don't know, this looked like the space was so mature, especially with like the speed of like Solana execution that, we could build a crazy distributed system to store data and also retrieve it extremely fast. Um, One of the first tasks we got after being acquired by AWS was integrate the video encoding stack deep into their S3 storage. So uh, I got lucky and cursed at the same time to have to learn about all the intricacies of Amazon's S3 storage and things. Some of the coolest things was like how honest the engineers were, and they're like, I wish we had done this or wish we hadn't done this. And I was just able to take a lot of those learnings and kind of move it forward in a new system.
Interesting. It sounds like they took Pied Piper and shoved it into Huli, and the reverse story. um, okay, cool. So on the fire storage, going back to the fire storage stuff. So I think you said it, and it was one of my questions, but I want to just like clarify the way that fire storage and the CDN interact with each other. It's one is serving the data, and the other is storing the data.
Correct. So
Right.
most CDNs or companies like AWS, they have like S3 the storage, but it can't sustain like more than like a couple thousand people reading it at a time. So you would wrap that around with like their CloudFront CDN. That way you can sustain, a million or 10 million people reading the data. So it's essentially like a full stack CDN. Um, that being said, like we're super agnostic. So like most of the customers that we work with today, they still use Amazon S3 storage. So we're fully able to connect with that and have full interoperability. It's great if they want to like move to our storage, but I don't want that to be like a deal breaker.
Hmm. It's kind of sounds like the combination of storing data in a decentralized way and then serving the data, making it available in a decentralized way. this kind of starts to sound like data availability. Is that like an area or category that it falls in, or is it different?
You know, I've never really heard much of this term before, like looking into blockchain, like data availability. um, so it's a very new concept that like a system would censor data and not return it. Um, but in general, from what I can tell from my like 2 minutes of like poking around in crypto at these like DA projects, um, if I was building a system that needed a DA layer, I would definitely try to use Pipe Network for that. Um,
Interesting. There you have it. Clip that. Really cool. Okay. Um, so we've talked about the CDN, we've talked about the fire storage network, and I wanted to bring up this tweet. Let me see if I can share my screen. One sec. Share screen. This tweet. Carl Samani. It's a tweet from Carl Samani. We all know who Carl Samani is. He said, the tweet says, there will be public and private routes for all internet traffic, public roads, unoptimized traffic, toll roads optimized to balance supply and demand per route. So the toll roads being, private internet cables or private routes or fiber links. And so he was quote tweeting a 00 tweet about there being new connections between some cities in America. In your documentation, I saw that you guys have this. I think it's called P1,
mhm.
and it sounds like this ability. It sounds like the product is using the public internet, but routing data or content in a more efficient way. Um, is that correct?
It's definitely an attempt to build like a super optimized routing layer on top of the internet. Um, so we have like so many nodes around the world. We basically have telemetry of like what's happening on the internet. So if a certain area or ISP like starts slowing down or breaks, we can send data through our pops around the world and route around these slow parts of the internet. Um, so it's really cool. Um, I think the public internet is like one of the most amazing innovations ever. It's like so decentralized, anyone can access it, and it tries to like take the path of like World War III or something, like so that it will like stay up forever. And it works great that way, but there's no like optimized pathing through the internet. And without going into like some extremely low level protocols working with like Cisco and folks like that, we basically built a layer on top of the internet. It's like a software defined networking layer, and that allows us to, if we can, route data through our like mesh of pop nodes much faster than the internet can do natively.
Interesting. So it's kind of like 00 is building the private internet routing layer, and you guys are optimizing the public internet routing layer. Like, what are the differences there? Are there any differences?
I think,
Like in terms of like the different things you can do, the use cases, the end user experience.
yeah, I think, 00 folks, it's a very cool project and we're extremely close to them. Um, I think it's sort of similar to like how existing CDNs are today. They're more in a data center footprint where we
Mm.
try to be more in like a hyper local neighborhood footprint. Um, there's a storage system that's being built that's going to run on 00, and Uh, it's a super high performance storage system, but it's so far from the users. Like, they reached out right away to partner with Pipe Network so that we can deliver the data from those data centers down much quicker to the users.
Mm. Are you talking about Shelby?
Yeah, Shelby.
Okay. Do I have to bleep that? Do I have to bleep that?
No, I think it's I think we did some talks at mainnet with them.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, those are going to be my other questions too. It's okay. Actually, before I ask those questions, I just want to summarize. So there's the CDN, there's the Firestar storage, and then there's this P1 product. The CDN is delivering content. The Fire storage is storing the content, and the P1 is routing the content.
Correct.
Is there like those three things, and they sound like very, very complicated, complex, like high maintenance. I don't know. You're the engineer. You would tell me more. You have a better idea on this, but they just seem like three really hard, challenging things to build. Which ones, like, if you had a distribution of like probability of one of them just like taking off and really like winning, which one would it be, or do they all benefit from each other?
They definitely all benefit greatly. Especially the CDN and the P1 routing layer. Those are like married together,
Interesting.
like very intimately now. I think there's probably some crazy new innovators that could come out and build on top of the routing layer, like new applications. We're essentially building the CDN to exploit being able to route through the internet faster, but I'm sure there's a lot of like clever guys that can come out and build some really cool applications using it as well.
Like what? Like what's an idea for someone who wants to build something on that running layer?
I think, for example, today, like if you use a VPN, right, and you're like, you want to watch, I don't know, video from Europe, and you're in the US or something, the inverse. So those are kind of slow based on my experience. They like add in some extra latency, and essentially someone could build like a VPN that you plug into your computer, your phone, and it would just run faster than the regular internet.
Oh, I see. So just building a VPN on Pipe Network.
Yeah, and using the routing layer.
Interesting. That sounds like really, because I know you guys have an allocation for grants. Maybe that's an idea that someone could run with.
It'd be amazing. We'd be happy to help support and optimize for that.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Okay, I wanted to double tap on, we talked about it in the middle, but I wanted to double tap on the ZK Quick and the ZK TCP implementations. These primitives, they seem like crucial components for verifying that nodes are doing what they're supposed to be doing, that nodes aren't lying, that nodes aren't being, I don't know, nefarious or doing bad things. So I think this is an important point of the protocol in general. So could you describe what these are and why you built them?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't out of like pleasure that we had to innovate this. It was pretty annoying, and we were super hoping someone would have built something we could just leverage. We looked a lot at this really popular technology out there called ZKTLS, and we were hoping we could.
Oh yeah, we love ZK. We love ZKTLS.
Yeah, so it's super innovating, but we need to verify the bandwidth is being like actually transmitted, and that is one way to do it, but it is very slow. So it adds in like an extra handshake, as it's called, and like low level networking. So we're trying to deliver data crazy fast, and it just wasn't really designed for what we needed. So we sit around and just thought about like, can we leverage zero knowledge proofs at all. So we looked at like using a lot of uniqueness of uh, like the TCP stack and the sequence numbers, and putting like the frame data, like what's being transmitted inside of a ZK proof. Uh, and we came up with these super nerdy ideas to like solve a solution for ourselves of like what we call ZK TCP and ZK Quick, because we use the Quick protocol. And end of the day, it just guarantees that the nodes have actually serviced the bandwidth that they say they've served. And it's a great way to also, do like decentralized payments as well, because like people can join a network and submit false information, that they've done things, and zero knowledge proof just really hardens that.
Okay. So, just as a reminder to the audience, this is the Mid Curve podcast. And so it's okay if the ZK TCP and ZK Quick implementations don't make sense. And I'm here as the host to make sure that you understand what they are before this is done, because I obviously understand everything that we're talking about. So when I think of ZK proofs, and they're like people having to serve ZK proofs, there's this element of cost. Like you have to like pay someone to serve a proof or run some like math, and that's computationally expensive. Is that something that is also like a point for the pipe network, and like who's serving the proofs and who's paying for them?
So the pop nodes today, they generate the proofs, and
Hmm.
um, we're probably still expanding how this implementation will work. But as of today, the pop nodes generate the proof based on the data they're serving, and they post that proof to like a centralized API. And then
Hmm.
anyone can run a verifier against that and post back that it's been verified. And then the node can be compensated for that work. Um, I do think over time we want to figure out how to decentralize that, but um, I think writing the proofs to the blockchain didn't feel like it was felt like it was very overburdensome for like our product today, like trying to deliver data crazy fast.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, we can definitely open up a thread offline to talk about this, because I do think there are people in Solana thinking about stuff in this nature. Um,
Yeah,
it's like the network extension, like realm of the world. So it's certainly an interesting area to explore. All sorts of people to talk to on that, and also proving bandwidth is something that our good friend Don Neal is really passionate about. So yeah, it seems like there's a lot of people experimenting with similar ideas.
yeah, it's not been a common requirement for Web 2, like to verify proof of bandwidth. And I also think as Solana evolves and the block production expands so that there's much more block space created, like probably makes sense to just toss it on Solana at that point.
Yeah. Okay, so something that I let's talk about use cases. You have three products; they all serve different use cases, and it's a network, and people can build use cases. Um, Give me some use cases. What are some examples of use cases that you see getting built on Pipe Network?
I think the world's like very become very controversial over the past few years. So a lot of our inbound inquiries are, I won't say to me like controversial, but they are to some people. Like they just want to post their opinions, and I think social media and things like that are more censorship, pro, and I think those are going to be a lot of applications built on pipe network, like a censorship resistant YouTube or things like that. Um, I'm very much pro speech kind of person. Living in the U.S. and enjoying the capitalism, and I also think like being able to deliver the data faster than any existing CDN, it's going to bring in like new innovators that it's hard to see right now. So, like, one guy has been playing with Pipe Network and he's using it to remotely control these like food delivery robots in Singapore. And we're like, oh, that's so cool. Like, you're driving a robot using our CDN because the latency's low enough. And
Hmm.
that came out of nowhere, right? Because we're just video nerds.
Hmm.
Uh,
That's super
I
cool.
can see a ton of that stuff coming out over time.
They're already building it.
Yeah, they've already been experimenting with it. Uh,
Can you share the name? I want to check it out.
I feel like Frodobots or something.
Oh, got it.
He's
Yeah.
pretty well known, I think, in Solana.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen their name around.
There's also more
Chatted.
controversial things like defense type systems. Um, the DoD has these things like C to C, so like computer to computer latency requirements, and um, we exceed all those greatly. So like if computers need to talk to other computers, um, we plug really well into these like very stringent environments where latency must be extremely low.
You said they're called DoD.
Yeah, so the Department of Defense, they have like C to C latency requirements. Um,
Hmm.
a lot of that's like maybe like a weapon system, things like that. Um, we previously did a bunch of like stuff for Air Force and Navy at the previous startup, and uh,
So you're saying Palmer Luckey can build an app on Pipe Network?
hell yeah, that'd be amazing.
Um, Amazing. Um, how about actually? I wanted to rewind to the censorship resistant streaming
Mhm.
that you mentioned. This is an interesting topic, obviously. I definitely empathize and support, from a philosophical perspective, the freedom of speech,
Mhm.
um, and that you know the market can like fizzle out or filter out content that you shouldn't be watching. But unfortunately, that's not how the world works. And my philosophical arguments are philosophical, and the market is how the world works. And if if a platform streams some content that is just completely by the market standard, not I guess acceptable, that's while the philosophical argument is exists, it has a negative impact on that app, and also just the I guess the brand, and just like all these other things. And I'm sure there's all sorts of headaches that kind of arise from something like that. Um, it's interesting because something that I feel like would be really interesting is if there was a way to stream content and anyone can do it, and then there's this network or this like set of operators, or I don't know, some fancy like implementation that can verify that it doesn't uh, that it's not unacceptable content. And the unacceptable content is maybe there's like a committee, or dare I say DAO, that like says, oh, you can't show this. Is that something that is possible in theory on Pipe Network?
It is. We've got some like very basic. experimental like edge compute on the nodes today. Um, Mainly just like if people need to deploy like an API or something on the CDN that's available. Uh, but it could service like some really lightweight machine learning, looking for certain patterns in, content and so forth to make sure the app doesn't have to display that, and generally the apps are going to have those like terms of service and curate the audiences around it. Um, a lot of things have changed so much. Like Facebook used to employ, you know, tremendous amount of people from Accenture to moderate the content, and they got rid of all of that in the last few years and just said just post it all online, basically.
And then if something's up, they just take it down.
Yeah, if they get reports, then they'll take it down. But
Oh, interesting. So it's like manual.
uh, semi-automated, but manual.
Well, yeah, but it's like
Yeah,
not. It's not. You would imagine that you could run some AI or some machine learning model, and I mean, we're at the point of an AI supercycle, right? So it's something that maybe would make more sense to save our eyes from content that the majority probably don't want to see. But it's an interesting thought. It's something that I've been pondering ever since the drama with pipe with Pump Fund.
mm.
Um, and now they have the term of service. They've like done an incredible job with the product. Like definitely not trying to open closets with skeletons. And they're doing a great job with their content moderation, as far as I can tell. I'm not an everyday user of Pump Fund, but it's just something that I ponder. So
It's
it'll be.
that's same things have existed in like traditional broadcast media for a long time. Like there's been delays in there in case like the sportscaster like he's
Mm,
like, oh, and he says a cuss word or something. So um, lots of times there's been like a 1 second delay. So like,
mm.
uh,
That's yeah. I see. I mean, you're increasing latency uh,
but
if you're adding an entire thing.
content moderation is super helpful depending on the application, and then in certain scenarios like you don't want to censor things at all, right? If you need to
Hmm.
make certain events public and things like that.
Hmm. Okay, that's something that we can unpack over a beer or another lunch
Yeah,
one
totally.
day. Okay, a couple fun questions at the end, and then we'll wrap it up here. Or maybe they're not fun. I don't know. But what is your most mid curve take about DPIN? And then what is your most left curve take about DPIN? And then what is your most right curve take about DPIN?
um, I think DPIN is like there's not been like a super knockout project just yet, from what I can tell. Like there's some that have like traction, but they're not re-innovating any industries at this point. Um, so I think there's huge opportunity for people to come in and just like kick ass and completely re-innovate existing industries with DPIN. Um, Probably the contrarian view is again looking at projects, and the coordination components seem like they're very liberal initially, and they disperse too much of the part of the network out too early to grow it. Um, so I think that's probably the only negative view I have of existing DPN.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think, I mean, this is definitely a mid curve take, but maybe it could be on the left side, which is the learning curve for just getting involved with DPIN and getting involved with the token, just as like a passive investor. Like, oh, I understand what the whole point of DPIN is. Now I want to invest. Um, there's a maybe the learning curve isn't steep, but I'll tell you right now, I go through some Helium documents or all the HIPs. It's like impossible to know like what's going on or what's happening.
Mm-mm.
You have to follow the right people on Twitter, and then you slowly get up to speed, and then or you could just like directly talk to someone. But even still, it's just there's there's burning and minting and burn mint equilibria and all these things. And I think once you internalize all of the stuff, it makes a lot of sense. Like I think burn mint equilibria is something that every crypto project could potentially converge on, not even just DePIN. So I definitely think that the space is ripe for re-innovating old industries, and at least given that let's just assume that that's the outcome. Like that's just like a certainty. One thing that's not certain at the moment is like how the tokens are going to work.
Mm.
Um, what is the optimal staking model? What is the optimal inflation model? How do these different models interact with each other? Are these models different depending on the DePIN? These are all questions that I'm curious to learn more about. These are all questions that I'm constantly thinking about because Jito, we want Solana to win, and in order for Solana to win, we need to like make sure that the products and services that are built on top of it are creating value. And so we're really happy to work with you. We're really happy to work with all the other DePINs that we're talking to, trying to accelerate the token side and make sense of that coordination piece that I feel like is still an open-ended research problem.
Yeah, you guys have definitely bringing like a very nice blessing of technology with the staking vaults and things like that for projects like ours that are kind of lightly built on top of a blockchain, but not like super integrated. And we want to leverage those security mechanisms and staking workflows that make blockchain super useful. And it's great that Jito has this like offering for us.
Yeah, I know. We're really excited that you guys, are hooked up or are hooking up. But like I said, by the time this podcast is out into the wild, there will be a staked pipe vault or a staked pipe stake pool. The ticker will be LovePIPE. So hopefully by the time you see this, I will have seen many of you already tweeting, "I love pipe." So anyway, yeah, we look forward to working with you guys, and accelerate. We're can't wait to see what happens out of this.
Yeah,
And thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, IBIR like.